Jacob's great. Apart from what came out about him yesterday, that's not great. And Solo just loses all the time, man. So I'm struggling to invest myself into that team, but I'm happy that we've got Roman, the Usos, and Sami back together, and I look forward to seeing them.
Well, I'm happy you brought up, what came out about Jacob, because I had that tucked away in what is known as Phil Marks Bookmarks. And I don't know if you've ever delved into Phil Marks Bookmarks with me, but it can be a scary place. Sometimes it can be a fun place. It can be a happy place. But today it's not such a good place, I guess, or yesterday rather, for one Jacob Fatu that you just brought up. And, Jacob, people say, his past came back to haunt him a little bit. And this is one of the many reasons why, WWE were iffy about hiring him in the first place. And, some company called Jake's Network, or it's like a non-profit organization, they came out and said, Jacob's a tremendous wrestler. They put on this event. They hired him for like $2,600 to come do the event. He said he had a family emergency. And he bailed, and he never gave the money back, and they're like a charity. And Jacob Fatu actually deactivated his Twitter when this news came out, and Sports Illustrated Wrestling here, SI Wrestling, that's what this is, right? Sports Illustrated Wrestling, I'm assuming. They say, update, Jacob Fatu is currently working with Jake's Network of Hope, which is the charity, to resolve this matter. So obviously they're going to pay him back. Who knows? Maybe WWE sends a talent to one of their next shows for a charity thing, or they just do like a 10G donation or something like that, make it all good. This isn't the worst thing in the world. I mean, people have done, there's like heinous crimes going on all over the world, man. I mean, but at the same time, I mean, yeah, it's kind of shove him, but he's got a bunch of kids, man, not to take Heath Slater's gimmick, but he's got kids and he's got mouths to feed, and he was doing his thing. And who knows if a family emergency did come up and it's a charity, but I don't think he's like, I'm going to rip off a charity. I just think at that time in his life, he was probably doing what he had to do to live. Crossman, what's your assessment of this, and how do you feel about this whole situation?
My assessment, man, is no matter what, you shouldn't rip off a charity. And if you have and you can't give the money back, man, you need to at least communicate, and he hasn't done that, allegedly. Yeah. He hasn't done that. He hasn't spoken at all, has he? He just deactivated and then reactivated, and then he's not said anything else, has he?
No, I don't think. Did he reactivate his Twitter as well?
I believe so.
Damn, so he must have just like talked to Triple H, and they're like, yeah, it's okay, we'll pay the fine for you, So yeah, I don't know. Jacob Fatu is an in-ring performer, I think is phenomenal, and I'm excited. I'm glad you said it. War Games is in Canada, in Vancouver. I'm excited. The double ring, the cage, Bloodline versus Bloodline, Floodline as I call them, the faux Bloodline, right? The Floodline.
Oh yeah.
So we got OG Bloodline, Floodline, and then, it seems like Sammy's going to join up. Probably The Rock shows up. No, you got to think he has some, like a video package at least to air at the end of that, or maybe they save it for the Raw after. Who knows? But yeah, I'm very excited for it too. I've been looking forward to this for a long time, and a lot of people are saying, "Are you familiar with like Hikuleo and Zilla Fatu and those guys, the young guys?"
I've heard the names. Yeah. I've never seen them wrestle. I've never seen them talk.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of glad that they're not being shoehorned into this, and they're just really milking the characters that we've already been invested in. And to what you said, I think the Tongans have been booked well. You know what I mean? Like Tongaloa is getting over really well. I mean, pardon me, Tama Tonga is getting over really well. The crowd's all barking with him and stuff like that. But so you said you had no interest in Crown Jewel. I don't know if we were on air or off air when you said that. However, do you know the results of it? Are you like anti the Saudi show? Was it just not a compelling card to you? What about it was a turnoff?
The card was just ass, man. I mean, there's.
I'm an ass man.
You had Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, which I was interested in, and Bronson Reed versus Seth Rollins, which I was interested in. But I do not like Seth Rollins whatsoever. So I'm only interested in one person in that match, and that is really enough for me to sit down and watch a 3 hour PLE when I could be doing something I enjoy, like playing on my PlayStation 2 or something like that.
I've been roasting Seth a little bit online because like his new gear that he wore at Crown Jewel is like the Young Bucks' gear. He's wearing like running shoes with like pants, and he just looks like the older Young Buck.
You
He needs
know,
to go back to
the reason I don't like Seth Rollins, man, and I've said this in plenty of videos, when you have a friend who doesn't like wrestling, but they know you like wrestling, and they sit and they tell you, "Oh, wrestling, that's gay. Wrestling, that's men in tights, fake fighting. They probably have homosexual relations after the show, and because they're trying to really take a piss out of you because you like
yeah.
wrestling and they don't. So you get them to sit down and watch wrestling, and then Seth Rollins comes out dressed. You remember his WrestleMania attire,
Yeah.
his entrance attire, man. He destroys your entire argument just because he's trying to make a statement of some sort, and I can't stand him.
That's fair. See, I don't get that. I've always looked at wrestling as like ultra colorful dude. I just look at him as like a more like flamboyant macho man type guy. But at the same time, I get where some people might be like, "Oh, come on, Phil, you can't." It's not Seth Rollins ain't macho man. That's not very fair. I could totally see that as well. I don't get that vibe, but I'm also deep in it, you know. So exactly what you said, like the casual mate, if you will, who comes over and is like, "Oh man, you watch this?" I get it. Crown Jewel breaks the all-time viewership record, though. So you weren't watching, but the masses were watching. Okay, and it was announced that the Crown Jewel event saw a 28% viewership increase versus 2023. I don't know. Obviously, a big success, and WWE made it clear they're going to keep doing these shows moving forward with the Saudis and all of that, and I just think it's a big plus. Like Raw emanated from there. I think SmackDown's taped there too. And we're seeing like the first ever women's promo, the first ever women's like storyline, whatever. They had a women's battle royal in a country where like I don't even think women are allowed to drive. At least WWE and pro wrestling is getting women on billboards and featuring them, because there might be like a generation of kids who grow up seeing that, and then their minds might change, and then it could, I don't know, strike change in the world. Now, who knows? I'm not playing Nostradamus or saying, WWE is changing the world for the better, pal, and making a better tomorrow. Obviously it's money is what their focus is, but at the same time, it's like these tiny steps. What do they say? One small step for man, one giant step for mankind. So I could see it in that way as well. So I don't get triggered by the Saudi shows, but for you, does any of that turn you off? Like, oh, they're in Saudi Arabia. That's not politically correct. And what is this dumb diamond belt? Like, does that get to you? Or
I really don't care about political correctness. I do a little bit to an extent. For an example, I don't like the N word.
Yeah.
There's certain words I don't like because they're just ugly words.
Yeah.
But when it comes to political correctness overall, I really don't care for it because it's been beaten into society and made society crazy. But when it comes to what you said with the first ever women's everything in Saudi Arabia, I like that you have hope that it will change something. But I can assure you now, with the way that the people over there work, in all of these countries that have a certain religion, they will not change their ways whatsoever at all. 100%, you will not change their mind at all.
At Rhodes Coda era put this out. So Carl Anderson has confirmed that he will be out until after WrestleMania 41 after undergoing successful surgery. So Carl Anderson out with the surgery, low-key. Are you a fan of the Good Brothers at all?
So I remember back in 2016, when I started watching WWE again after a break for a few years, and it was just around the time, or no, not long after is when AJ Styles debuted, and then those two came around. I think it was the Raw after WrestleMania, or it might have been just after that. I'm not sure, but I created them in the game because they weren't in the game,
Yeah.
and I made them the Bullet Club because I was a bit of a fake mark. You know, like the people that when MJF says that he doesn't pretend to watch New Japan, Like I was the kind of wrestling fan that would say, "Oh, New Japan," but never watch it. Um, but I'd take those two, and I eventually split them up and made Carl Anderson a singles because for some reason I had the urge to make him a singles guy. I can't remember if I made him the Intercontinental Champion, but that was a plan at one point. Now, they've been used very, very, very badly to the point where I really don't care about them anymore. And it's not their fault. It's the way that they was used by Vince and Triple H.
Yeah, well, Carl Anderson has been in NXT. He's putting over younger teams, and he's in like the best shape of his life. He's shreddy, like shreddies, dude. But he's just putting over like Axiom and Nathan Frazier. You know what I mean? So it is, and not hating on those guys, but his job now is just collect a check, stay in good shape. I guess get this surgery. Thank God it's okay. He kept it quiet, and yeah. I'm big fans of the Good Brothers and the Bullet Club and AJ Styles and all that too. But yeah, they've definitely. I would love to see them on the main roster, but I think maybe WWE looks at them like their time is sort of come and gone. And hey, they're cool, man. They're cool to collect a check. If you listen to their podcast, I don't even know if they still do it, but it was like Talking Shop Wrestling or something. I can't remember, but
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I've never watched it.
Yeah, so I'd watch it. They had they'd even put on like silly wrestling events and stuff. But yeah, Carl Anderson is down to, I think, just grab a check, help these tag teams get better in the ring, and that's cool with me. But yeah, I'm glad he's healthy and whatnot. So this I found incredibly interesting here. So, and I think everybody did, but I find it interesting for a different reason that nobody's really bringing up. So typically around like the road to WrestleMania and around like No Way Out, it would always be like the Rumble, then No Way Out, then Mania, at least like in the 2000s and stuff, like early 2000s. And they would always run like smaller towns and sort of like smaller shows so that the wrestlers wouldn't get hurt leading up to WrestleMania. At least that's the way I interpreted it, you know? They wouldn't run like the bigger cities or put on these like big spectacles, I guess, if you will, on the quote unquote road to WrestleMania tour. I'm thinking it's going to be more or less the same because they're talking about cutting back on house shows. So I'm like, okay, maybe WWE is going to go to these smaller towns and stuff like right before Mania, you know, preserve their talent, just get through Mania healthy, all that. Nah, dude. They're coming through, I'm assuming your neck of the woods, but all over Europe. So WWE announced an 11-city tour of Europe and the UK on the road to WrestleMania. For the first time ever, consecutive episodes of Raw, SmackDown will emanate from different cities across the UK and Europe over 3 weeks in March. Here's the schedule. Crossman, I want your thoughts on this, but first, I just want to say this, dude. How smart is it that on the road to Mania, right before Mania, you do like a world tour, attract those like maybe last minute tourists who are going to come to Vegas. Not that they weren't going to not come already. You know what I'm saying? But these crowds are going to be so hot and it's going to make WrestleMania feel like we will all not be able to wait for it. Like, look how hot these crowds have been. It won't be like, oh, they're in Puerto Rico for Backlash and the SmackDown before that crowd's insane. It's going to be like a series of crazy crowds, like a month of crazy ass crowds leading up to Mania. It'll just make it feel so hot going into 41, like maybe even hotter than last year. Your thoughts on this, and will you be going out of your way to try and get to any of these shows?
Originally, I was thinking it was a bit of a strange idea because you're putting all these guys through lots of travel around the time of WrestleMania, and then potentially getting hurt. But now that you've mentioned about the crowds,
Yeah,
it's certainly a smart idea to get them loud crowds right before WrestleMania because it's going to get people pumped. I understand that. But as for going to shows, no, unfortunately, I will not be attending any of these shows, man. I don't drive. First of all, my missus does, and she can't really pick me up from, say, I don't know, Nottingham at 11 o'clock at night. And I don't like staying in hotels. So unfortunately, I won't be attending a show, but I will be happy to watch them earlier.
Yeah, I'm excited for these, man. I like when WWE can get out there and travel around, and the crowds are just insane. And I wanted to ask you about that too. So I'm sure you've seen since the last time we talked, All In went down in the UK again, and the attendance and the hype around it, and the card was what it was. I mean, let's be honest. And then Tony all of a sudden sort of hits the panic button, and he goes, "Oh man, I got to get to Australia and Texas, and I just got to announce these things now because I don't know how much longer this is going to last." And then you see the mayor of London, and he comes out and he's like, "Yeah, we promised to bring WrestleMania here," basically, right? He's like, "We're gonna bring WrestleMania here," and they'll bid on WrestleMania, unlike AEW that pays to put on All In. And then the news breaks recently, not too long ago, that the mayor's like, "We're gonna have the Super Bowl," and then Dave Meltzer's dumbass comes out and goes, "Yeah, the WWE WrestleMania isn't a priority anymore." For London. Now they want the Super Bowl, but everyone's sitting here thinking like the two aren't mutually exclusive. Like they could have both. It's like a huge tourist destination and stuff like that. What are your thoughts? That's from your neck in the woods. You know what I mean? At least you're part of the globe. Any hot takes on that?
I mean, I've got hot takes, but they're not wrestling related. I mean, the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, he needs to focus on other things that aren't wrestling because London is not a good place, man. Right now, London's not a good place, and it's his fault. London's not a good place. So, if I'm going to be honest, man, I would rather not have WrestleMania over here. Have everything fixed first, then focus on big events because the way things are, man, over here, they're not good, and our politicians shouldn't be focusing on, let's get this big event because it's just going to attract more crime, more knife crime, more assaults, everything like that, because that's how bad things are at the minute. So when it comes to that, it'd be nice to have a WrestleMania in London, but I'd prefer the country to be fixed first.
So let's say, they bring a WrestleMania there. Like, let's say I'm a tourist, I go to WrestleMania. Is it like a dangerous situation, like the state that London's in and all of that? Like, where would you like rate it, I guess, or how would you describe it, I guess?
So I think you'd be safe because you're not white, British, or female. Yeah. So I think you'd be safe. But anyone coming over that's female certainly needs to be aware of her surroundings at all times. But the common white British man should certainly be concerned for their safety. And any woman that comes over should be concerned for their safety. But I think you'd be fine in case you come across a gang of ruffians that want to rob your stuff. Yeah. There's a chance of that.
So what about like everywhere else though, like Austria? I'm not saying I'm not saying you've been there or anything, but they'd be all good there. No.
So Spain's very bad. I know Spain's very bad. Spain's pretty much as bad as us. France is very bad. Germany and Poland, I think they've got things under control. Everywhere else is bad.
Oh, damn. So, like Scotland and Northern Ireland, and are they going through it?
Oh, yeah. Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, Ireland. Ireland's worse than us right now. Ireland is on fire. France is on fire. Yeah. Everywhere's on fire, man. It's ridiculous. It's Spain. It's not a good place to go, man.
Okay, this has been a Europe Education Minute with PWT. Yeah, tour of Europe with Crossman Wrestling. I guess shout out for WWE. Everyone stay safe if you're traveling around there, I guess.
I'd much prefer them to just fix the country instead of focusing on WrestleMania and Super Bowl. I mean, this doesn't fix anything.
Because is that your guys' like, let's say they bid on WrestleMania, is that y'all's like tax money they're using to, or what is it?
I'd imagine so, yes.
Yeah, I mean, damn. So then, and it's an event that you gotta go spend more money on to where they tax you more, because it's like that in Canada.
Well, with the new budget, because obviously we had a new government in July, they released the budget. I think it was last week, and they are taxing the shit out of people. Farmers are going to be destroyed. Everyone's going to be destroyed.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't in the world, man. Yep. What is even the world, bro?